This is Chief Engineer James T. Clark. I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Commencing uplink protocol immediately. Stand by. Over and out. This is Chief Engineer James T. Clark. I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Commencing uplink protocol immediately. Stand by. Over and out. This is Chief Engineer James T. Clark. I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Commencing uplink protocol immediately. Stand by. Over and out. This is Chief Engineer James T. Clark. I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Commencing uplink protocol immediately. Stand by. Over and out. Hey everyone, Background Music Guy here, coming to you with another fun tutorial. This time, we're trying to emulate the speech coming from the built-in communication system of our spacesuit helmet. You've guessed it, this is the type of spacesuit worn by Isaac Clarke and other notable sci-fi horror game protagonists. Now, the other day I happened to be playing DeadSpace for the 4th time and thought just how cool it would be to recreate the Comm system audio. I wanted to capture the sense of claustrophobia and panic that is heard throughout the game. So I've just recorded some voiceovers here in my studio. I've even gone ahead and shot myself in the foot to capture that sense of pain, agony, and panic. All right, all jokes aside, let's see what's under the hood plugin-wise. All right, so the first plugin I'm using here is the NS1 noise suppressor. And what this does is that it limits the amount of sort of ambient noise in a recording, the room tone. It helps to reduce that unwanted signal sound. And so I'm using it very sparingly. The room in which I'm working and recording in is somewhat dry, not entirely dry. It does get sort of lively, especially when I need to scream into a mic. Right, you can hear that there are some echoes, and so this plugin helps me reduce those echoes and those fluttering sounds. Now, here's what it sounds like as an exaggeration. This is Chief Engineer James T. Clark. So you can hear that pumping effect, which is unwanted, but I'm using it very, very sparingly here. This is Chief Engineer James T. Clark. Now, the gate plugin kicks in right after I say the final word of a particular sentence. Now, it doesn't clamp down too much. In other words, I want to maintain and keep some of those breathy sounds. A lot of people will use the noise suppressor as well as a gate to reduce inhalations and unwanted sounds such as, you know, those kind of annoying sounds. But I wanted to keep a lot of the breathing, the heavy breathing, into the recording just to contribute to that sense of panic. This is Chief Engineer James T. Clark. I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. This is Chief Engineer James T. Clark. I'm hurt, but I find by using the gate, it sort of tightens it up just a little. Now let's move on to the third plugin, which is a de-esser. This will reduce some of those sibilant sounds, the S's and such. Chief Engineer James T. Clark. I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. All right, it's not really working that much. It is reducing a certain amount of sibilant frequency. I tend to have a lot of stuff going on at the 5-6K mark, and many people do, but I just know that my particular voice gets very S-y at that frequency range. I also have another de-esser later on, so we'll look at that. The next plugin is a preamp, and it helps to brighten the signal. That's pretty much it. I mean, I'm using it for that purpose, and it's not volume matched. So before sounds like this. Engineer James T. Clark, I'm hurt, but I finally and then after. Engineer James T. Clark, I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematic. Now again, it's not volume matched. I will take care of the volume later on during the signal circuit, but for now it's simply here to brighten up the signal. I've decided to add this here only because I know that I'm going to cut away a whole bunch of frequencies by adding an EQ, so I wanted to brighten it just before doing that. All right, the next is another de-esser, and this one is a little more aggressive. This one happens to be made by Waves, and I take off a lot more frequencies here, or volume here rather. T. Clark, I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Now you can hear it pumping, you know, and that's okay. Again, for the context of this recording, we're trying to simulate broken down comm systems. So all of these plugins are somehow manipulating the sound. They're somehow degrading the quality of the sound. And this plugin is a little aggressive here, but I think it does work for the context of what we're going for. Next is stock Ableton Live plugin EQ. I am cutting out a whole bunch of signal, so it starts pretty much high passing at the 177 hertz mark, and I am cutting away everything above the 3.5K mark here. So that's how we get that spacesuit effect. Dear James T. Clark, I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. All right, so this is before. Dear James T. Clark, I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship. All right, so there's a lot of bass, a lot of top end here, and we just want to focus on that mid-range frequency. Dear James T. Clark, I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Now again, you can hear some of those higher frequencies pushing through because I've added some higher tones here from the previous plugin. All right, let's move on to the next, which happens to be the compressor. I'm doing some really light compression here, nothing aggressive. I'm probably taking off about 2 dBs. Clark, I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Clark, I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment. All right, so we're capturing the word hull there and trying to smash it so it sounds a little more even in relation to the other words. I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics. It's not entirely volume matched. It's probably 1.5, maybe 2 dBs louder, but that's okay, you know. All right, the next. This is what induces that claustrophobic effect, the delay plugin. Now, before, it sounds like this. But I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. And after, with the delay plugin enabled. But I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Commencing uplink protocol immediately. And as you can see, I've added some automation here. I didn't want that claustrophobic sound to be there all the time, even though that does make sense because, you know, you're not really moving around when you're in a spacesuit, but or at least your head isn't. But just to make the audio clearer, it does sort of jump out at you every now and then, especially like here when I'm coughing. Lower hull of the containment area. Commencing uplink. All right, so again, the short delay time is 2.4 milliseconds. The feedback is pretty high, and I'm just sort of riding the dry wet knob here throughout the recording. but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. All right, let's move on to the other plugins here. I have Transmod. I wanted to make the speech a little more coherent, so I've boosted some of that, you know, those transients, if you will. Here's an exaggeration. The ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Again, sparingly, so I have it set around 0.1. All right. We managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Again, just to make the speech a little more coherent, so it pops out a little. Next up, the Fab Filter Saturator. We're trying to degrade the audio slowly, bit by bit, having a number of plugins do their thing. So this is the Fab Filter Saturator. Finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. And without. Finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Now it is compressing it to a certain degree, and that's cool. You get that Comm sound system coming through this plugin. So that's why this guy's here. Now let's move on to the final few plugins. Here's a compressor, the Glue. This one is here to reduce some of those peaks, right? So I have a threshold at 10:1 and quick attack and fast release. Clark, I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics. Clark, I'm hurt. But I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. All right, it's warm. I like it. It's smooth. You don't really hear it doing its thing, but it does reduce some of those transient peaks. And I follow that up with another compressor. This one is more for smoothing out the entire speech. I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. The next is another plugin. This one is here to reduce or cut out some of those lower frequencies that may have made it through these other plugins. And so I'm just cleaning up the bottom end. You don't want too many low frequencies in this type of recording. After all, it's coming in through some crappy communication system. So we want to keep it nice and restricted. I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematics in the lower hull of the containment area. Yeah, so we're getting rid of all of this junk here. The next is a utility plugin, and I'm automating some of the volume controls here, trying to simulate broken down audio, in particular this area here. I'll loop so you get an idea of what it's doing. I'm hurt. I'm hurt. All right, just some flutter taking place here. I'm hurt. So those were the plugins that I've used for some of the voiceover stuff here. Now you could do this with stock plugins, and I may do another tutorial using exclusively Ableton Live plugins. I wasn't really going to turn this into a tutorial, but then I figured, oh, why not, you know? And then by then I had already loaded up a whole bunch of third-party plugins. But I will do a follow-up video using Ableton Live plugins. So stay tuned for that, and sign up to the channel, by the way, so you don't miss out on that video. Now let's move on to some of the static sounds here. So I have found some static sound effects, and I have used them in the project. The links are in the description. And I have added some edits, some chops, some stutters, as well as some layering here, just for, you know, to give it that static effect. Choppy audio. You can see that the treatment of the samples are pretty straightforward. I've limited some of the higher frequencies here, and I'm using some plugins to, again, reduce some of the higher frequencies. This is without. Now I also have some static that plays throughout the recording, just to give it that grainy texture. And there is some slight automation done by panning it left and right. Now, you know, under normal circumstances, this would probably be a mono signal, but hey, it's for a video game, right? So we can do what the heck we want. And last but not least, we have some compelling background music here, sourced at grooveden.com. All right, and I've actually had a few ideas for background music, but I think this one works really well. As for the background music, I've turned to grooveden.com royalty-free music library, and I was checking out their cinematic catalog, and I went through a number of songs. All right, that sounds pretty good. I'm gonna download this and drag and drop it into the project just like this. Let me yeah, let's give this one a shot, see what it sounds like.
This is Chief Engineer James T. Clark. I'm hurt, but I finally managed to locate the ship's schematic.
All right, so grooveden.com was gracious enough to offer a discount code. The link is in the description. So if you're looking for background music or royalty-free music, then head on over to Grooveden and make sure that you use that discount code. Also, if you happen to be looking for some voiceovers for your project, well then hit me up, check out my YouTube channel and send me a message. I'd love to be a part of your project, whether it's a video game or even for a parody. So let's rock this out. All right, shameless plug, let's keep it moving. Having said that, I hope you give this video a like if you found it useful, informative, and somewhat entertaining. Hope to see you next time. Sign up to the channel and don't forget to click the notification button for subsequent videos. On that note, take care. I'll see you next time.